John Peel snapped the shaver back in its slot and pulled down his masker. He was late this morning. The voice gave a malicious whir and said, "You now have 10 minutes to catch your car, John." He slid the masker down his cheek, smoothing the pale gray plastic over his face. Halfway down it sputtered, and the liquid came out in uneven drops. Blast! He fumbled for a fresh tube, took a precious minute to refill the masker, stripped off the right cheek, and started over. Sometimes it could be bonded together, but he didn't want to take a chance on being caught in public with a crack showing. He gave himself an embarrassed grin at the thought. The mirror, with its subliminal message flashing, "You are a handsome and virile male," reassured him. He finished masking, then stared at his face again, his eyes alive in the gray mask. Stared back at him, seemed to ask, "Who am I?" His lips parted slightly, and he leaned forward as if to listen for the answer. But there was no reply except the message from the mirror repeating itself 1,000 times a second. The voice, now strident with alarm, said, "You have 5 minutes to catch your car." He whirled and ran into the sleeping room, snatched up his gray coverall and its gleaming white collar, and threw it on. It was not until he was on the station platform, surrounded by the grayness of the other masked and coveralled men and the pink that was the women, that he realized that instead of his briefcase of cards, he held a piece of toast in his right hand. His stomach, resentful at being left without breakfast, had betrayed him into grabbing the toast from the breakfast slot instead of the card case from its rack. "Oh, well," he thought, "what difference does it make if I don't talk? I never say anything anyway." Shocked at himself, he glanced hastily at the city mural painted on the walls. The subliminal hidden in the skyline soothed him. "I am going to catch a clean and speedy train to my pleasant place of work," it said. The tension in his stomach subsided. He saw a woman eyeing the piece of toast and stuck it in his pocket. Aboard his car, he hurried to the men's compartment to eat his toast. As he chewed the dry stuff, he wondered resentfully why he should have to hide, though of course he knew it was because chewing might crack his mask. He glanced in his wrist mirror, then went down to the artist's car. Hawkins sat in his usual seat. He nodded at Peel, flipped open his briefcase, and pulled out a card reading, "Nice day." Peel nodded uncomfortably. Hawkins clearly expected some response, so Peel cleared his throat and averted his face. Scarcely moving his lips, he murmured, "Forgot my cards." Hawkins' hand dived into the case, came up with the card, reading, "So sorry to hear it. Know how you feel." Peel stared out the window at the painted forest. He tried to pick out the pine trees he had worked on, but it was impossible with so many others. He felt tired and out of sorts. Why shouldn't a man be able to find the trees he had painted? He purposely kept his eyes from the sky, even though he knew the subliminals there would make him feel better. That was the trouble with working for scenery. When you were onto it all, it took some of the pleasure out of it. He knew the messages by heart. "I am lucky to have such a good job. I am well paid. I am happy." At the little country village they changed to, "I'm going to work hard today. No wasted time. I'm glad I'll be doing my part." The waterfall came into sight. There was something wrong with that fall, he thought irritably. He wasn't in water himself, but every time he saw that cascade leaping down the rocky cliff he felt vaguely disturbed. He frowned at it till it was out of sight. He turned to find a small man across the aisle looking steadily at him. Peel's hand strayed over his mask. Was something wrong? Who was the fellow? Why was he watching him? No matter. Today he decided he was going to paint a drooping branch on one of his pines. He could see it in his mind's eye. He would tip the needles ever so slightly brown. After all, trees shouldn't always be straight and green. Why didn't they understand that? Not much, or the inspector would catch it.